We are going to be full pin on multiple marketing fronts. We're going to have a Web 2 marketing team. We're going to have a Web 3 marketing team. We're going to bring on some influencers, KOL, everything, the whole package. Now is the right time.
Michael, so great to have you here today. So we're going to break this AMA down into two main parts. First, we're going to answer the community questions that we got, and then I'd like to get your thoughts on the future of Decentraweb as we move forward. Does that sound good?
Amazing. Thanks for having me, Josh.
So for now, let's just start off with an overview of your background before Decentraweb, and then what led you to creating Decentraweb.
Sure. Yeah, I got into technology at a really young age. I was 6 years old when I got my first computer, was enamored by it. I kind of went down a little bit of a dark path. I got into some computer hacking and got into some communities, some groups that really revolved around hacking and exploiting technology. But for me, it was kind of much like Star Trek. We were exploring space, uncharted space at this point. I had gone into a mix with certain groups, and there was a new style of attack that had emerged in the late 90s called distributed denial of service. It was extremely powerful, very hard to mitigate, and I wanted to see if I could take advantage of this and scale it out. So I pioneered essentially what's known as mass distributed denial of service today. You basically bombard a website with millions and millions of requests, which render their server inoperable. But no one had ever seen anything of this scale when I created it, so I needed to run some tests. I ended up choosing Yahoo, eBay, CNN, Dell, and Amazon. All my attacks were successful at that point, which created a mass media frenzy. There was global coverage. Even the former president of the United States, Bill Clinton, convened the first cybersecurity summit based on what I did. And they basically vowed to get whoever was responsible. And sure enough, 4 months after the attacks took place, they did. They raided my house and I was arrested. I ended up pleading guilty. But during that process, I was young. I was 15 years old when this happened. And I genuinely felt remorse and wanted to figure out a way to contribute and give back to the world. So I made it my life's mission to raise awareness around cybersecurity and that topic. So that's exactly what I did. I wrote an award-winning book. I worked with many Fortune 500 companies on their cybersecurity policy and hygiene, and literally did over 400 keynotes educating people and businesses alike on cybersecurity practice. So that was exciting. I launched a pen testing company where we essentially did ethical hacking and gave full-on reports about how we were able to breach said company and they were able to patch it. And then in most recent events, I worked as chairman of the security advisory board for Hewlett-Packard for over 5 years, which then, of course, leads up to my latest venture, which is Decentraweb, which we launched a little over 2 years ago now. And honestly, it's been an exciting ride thus far.
It's always fascinating to hear your story of going from, teenage hacker to global cybersecurity expert, keynote speaker. Yeah, it's a wild story.
Thank you. Well, I love technology, and I really wanted to. I think it can be better for our lives, but also can be worse in some instances. So I think that cybersecurity is critical moving forward as we evolve as a human race and we utilize technology more and more.
Cybersecurity, it seems like, is getting a lot more challenging in the world of AI because it becomes easier and easier to do these kinds of attacks.
Yeah, I mean, I had seen applications of AI long before ChatGPT came out, and that's when it really garnered a lot of attention. But really, in reality, hackers were using certain forms of AI to do deep dives on operating systems to look for exploits.
I think we can save this for another conversation, but I would like to have a little deeper dive into this, because I've seen where people will just post a smart contract into ChatGPT and ask it to find an exploit,
Oh, the possibilities are endless for sure.
Yeah. But yeah, let's jump into the community questions. So we reached out into our Discord, asked the community for questions. We told them we're going to do this AMA, and we got a handful of really good ones. The more technical ones I set aside so that I can ask Adam, who is the CTO, and I'll be interviewing him next. So let's jump right into the first one. This first question is kind of a broad one. What are the different categories of services that Dweb can provide? So for example, gaming, DNS, decentralized identities, business enterprise applications. Yeah, and then what are the order of the focus or the priorities for these?
It's a good question, and I know the community's been waiting a while for this AMA, so I'm really excited to get started here. But Yeah, I look at Decentraweb much like a diamond with multiple facets. This is a very versatile technology, and it applies to many of the industries that you mentioned. I think holistically overall, we look at this as sort of like a Web3 identity. So it's much more than the traditional Web2 domain name. I think that there's B2B and B2C offerings here that we're looking at focusing on. But I think the low-hanging fruit, obviously, and probably what our primary focus is going to be is gamer tags. A lot of these Web3 games that exist in this ecosystem are crazy huge. They have massive players, big numbers. And I think that this is a no-brainer of a solution. Imagine you have a game, you own a plot of land, or you're just, you don't have an actual gamer tag in that game. Decentraweb solves that problem. And I think that being able to offer the top-level domain portion, for said game where they can offer to their existing users a subdomain off of their top-level domain, I think that's what really is going to push this forward, I think.
Yeah, I think so as well. And I think it's, especially when you consider just the Web2 gaming market has already started to pick up speed. And it seems like, in a lot of the conversations we've had, everybody is kind of thinking that Web3 gaming is going to be really big next year. So it's a really good time to capitalize on that.
Well, I think also Decentraweb's overall mission is to bridge Web 2 to Web 3. And we're seeing a lot of AAA game title developers now enter the Web 3 arena. And this can help facilitate that as well, because they know how valuable gamer tags are. It creates a sense of community. So I think that there's a big opportunity there for us.
I think I agree. And it's our opportunity to make the killer app version of Decentraweb to start to show people what it can do. And then, we can branch out from there.
And I will say from a programming perspective, everything is ready to go. We've developed everything. We have all the SDK ready. We have the ability to input Decentraweb into their existing DApp. This is why we spent our time building this, so that when these AAA game titles come around and want to utilize Decentraweb technology, our tech is sound and it works perfectly.
All right. Well, and that kind of leads me into the next question. Now that all the tech is ready, question number 2 that I have is, how are the integrations going?
Yeah, we're excited about this. We just, mentioned this a few weeks ago. We have obviously a lot of internal discussions about this. Integrations take quite a while, and we're going after some big fish as well. So I'm not going to say any names, but let's call a spade a spade. Like, these companies move slowly, but once you're in, you're in. So it's a slow moving process, but rest assured that overall a lot of our resources have now been diverted to integrations and really focusing on building out those integrations and friendships with a lot of those brands and companies.
And to kind of lead into the next question, this one's also about integrations. So what are the hurdles for integrations? This one says specifically the hurdles for integrations into block explorers, but I think we can cover that as well as more generally.
Look, in this space, some of it, let's talk about block explorers quickly. A lot of it is just pay to play at this point. You just really need to pay to get integrated, and that's fine. And we're evaluating all the options. I think part of our strategy is to prove usefulness so that price is severely decreased, because the more people that are using Decentraweb, the more these block explorers are incentivized to organically integrate us, which is exactly how it happened with ENS. Guarantee ENS did not pay block explorers to be integrated. So that's part of our goal and our strategy. But if we get resistance on that front, then we'll explore at just paying for the integration if that's the case. But that's pretty much what the blockade is in terms of block explorers. With other players, it's just going to take a bit of time.
Are the integrations more scrutinized and difficult in Decentraweb's case because of what Decentraweb does with DNS and with top-level domains?
I don't think so. I mean, I unless the other person or resolver that they're using would be someone else who also offers top-level domains. But as of right now, we don't have an existing conflict with anyone. That's why we, reserved certain top-level domains so that there's no collision. There is other providers in the space that, would result in a collision. But if you look at the way certain block explorers have solved this problem, they just put a small icon or a logo of said company so that that TLD correlates with that company. That could be a solution moving forward. It's very much, I find, like, radio solutions where you have AM, FM, satellite radio, etc. Like, you as the user have the choice of choosing. And I think that it's going to be a similar instance across the board.
So if there are any more scrutiny, it would likely be due to potential collisions that they would want to avoid. Like maybe they've already integrated a competitor or something, but I mean, one, that wouldn't be a problem if they've just integrated ENS because we don't collide with ENS.
Right.
But I can definitely see in other cases where that could be the case.
Well, in fact, like our kit seamlessly resolves with ENS, right? So that's a big plus for someone who also wants to integrate ENS. You get ENS and Decentraweb through our kit.
I think that's a really good point for companies that are debating on whether or not they would want to integrate, knowing that they get 2 for the price of 1. Well, I guess for free, since it's just available for free.
That's why we built it out that way. We're just trying to make it easy for potential partnerships to get both of us.
Okay, well, let's move on to the next question. So question 5 is, what do you think about the domain market in Web3 in general?
I think it's an interesting one. Honestly, this reminds me a lot of, when .com first came out and there was a lot of squatters and a lot of speculators. I think that's kind of like where we're at right now. But the truth is that this provides so much more utility, right? Well beyond just being a domain. Obviously, this can act as a wallet address. It could act as a gamer tag, a Web3 identity. I see this used as an enterprise solution. Imagine a world where, you log into your O365 and you could log in with Decentraweb, right? It's a much more secure fashion of logging in. It also avoids phishing scams, right? Because although there's a lot of hacking going on globally, 80% of it still relies on social engineering scams and stealing credentials. So imagine this is all protected by private keys and hidden behind your wallet, etc. And the only way to log into your email was through a Web3 domain. Now that, to me, that's the type of vision that I have. That's where I see this company going, is, offering these types of solutions. So I'm excited. Can't wait for, all these integrations to happen and people to know who Decentraweb is.
Yeah, and for the enterprise identity side of it, that's a really interesting one, especially, companies spend so much money telling their employees not to click on links in their emails and stuff. And if you had a hardware wallet that has your key on it that has to be plugged into the computer in order to log in, that eliminates such a huge percentage of those kinds of attacks.
For sure. I mean, that's part of the problem, right? Like, people spend so much time in training and they get a scam email and they're able to steal their credentials, and that's it. All the money spent is wasted. There needs to be a better solution, and I truly believe that this is, especially since looking at what companies are willing to pay for cyber education and certain softwares that help, prevent this stuff. Why not just hide everything behind private keys?
And don't even give employees access to their private keys.
Right.
Just let the IT department manage it. Yeah.
Exactly. You're taking away onus from the user. That makes it literally unable to be breached.
All right. Well, speaking of the Web3 domain space, this next question is around the conflict between ENS and unstoppable domains that's going on right now. So if people don't know, basically, as it appears, I'm not an expert in this, but as it appears, unstoppable domains used ENS's tech and then patented it. And now there's a potential lawsuit between the two of them going on. So the question is around that conflict. How is Dweb planned to stay safe from the chaos?
This is an interesting one, and I've been trying to keep up, and I've been reading some of the Twitter threads, and it's very interesting what's coming to light. Our position is that we're just going to keep doing what we're doing. We're a decentralized entity. We're not interested in trying to police the world. I don't agree with the patent and unstoppable domains approach. This is meant to be open source. And not only that, ENS developed most of it, right? And not only that, if I'm not mistaken, they've also used some like MIT licensed software in the process of developing what they developed. So technically ENS could go after unstoppable, and then MIT can go after ENS and unstoppable. Like, I don't really understand why unstoppable did a patent and a Web3 alliance. It looks more like a power play. They want to control the market and try and have some superiority over it. And, I don't believe this comment of like, oh, well, we made the patent, but we're never going to use it. We're never going to enforce it. Then it's like, why did you patent anything to begin with? It's hogwash, in my opinion. Our policy is we're going to steer it clear unless somebody drags us into this fight. But I am curious to see the outcome. I personally believe that this patent would never stand in a court of law. I think that ENS has a very easy win if they choose to challenge it. Again, I'm not an attorney, so don't take this as legal advice, but knowing other patent issues and technological patents, I think it's a pretty easy win for ENS if they choose to pursue it. But we're worried about Decentraweb right now. That's what we're worried about. We want to make sure that this is the biggest success possible. And hey, if they're busy shooting shots at each other, could be very good for Decentraweb overall, honestly.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to look at it. That it doesn't really, even though it's in our industry, it's not really relevant to what we're doing right now. So it makes sense to just kind of steer clear.
We're literally on the cusp of, doing a whole different spiel right now, which we're going to get into in some of the later questions, but this is exciting times for Decentraweb right now. I don't really want to dim that light by bar street fight type of thing going on. I'm not really interested in.
Yeah, that makes sense. Then the next question I have to kind of switch things up is, I'm gonna ask this one. What are your plans for the reserved emojis? Maybe some more details around the emojis that are reserved and stuff.
Yeah, look, I'm not going to lie. Decentraweb obviously has a fair amount of some of the top and best emojis that we reserved. Part of that strategy early on was we are going to do a few things with these emojis. The first one is we're probably going to release an auction and allow some of the users to bid on it so it's fair game. And then secondly, I think that, we're going to have certain programs in place, or like maybe it will be like a time of the month or a year. Like, for instance, we gave away a pumpkin emoji on a certain Halloween. So I think we might do certain things like that. Some will be given away and others will be auctioned off. And of course, those funds will go directly towards the development of Decentraweb.
Okay. So partly for staking, partly for development, or partly for marketing and partly for development, basically.
Yeah. And there's also a third element that I can think of. We could also use it to set certain bars where certain numbers are met from a referral program of sorts or something like that. And we'll just give them an emoji for reaching that target.
Yeah, that's a really interesting one. And that actually perfectly leads to the next question. The next question I have is, have you thought about creating a bounty or referral program for contributors?
Yes, definitely. This has been discussed internally multiple times. We are looking at multiple ways to reward people for onboarding other users. As we just mentioned, one of them could be that they'll get access to a very specific, unique emoji TLD. We could reward them in DWeb as well. We are definitely looking at it. I think we want to do a few things first before we release that program. But yes, definitely, that is something we are discussing. For instance, also, we might make an exclusive channel in the Discord for certain resellers and stuff like that meet certain targets, and they'll get access to a private chat, sort of like a gated, some sort of like gated content, stuff like that.
And I was thinking it was something, maybe an ambassador program, something that goes alongside that. However we want to organize it out, ambassador, bounty, referral, there's can be something that applies to that whole group.
Yeah, definitely. We're very interested in rewarding people for whoever they onboard. I think that, community growth is also imperative if everybody partakes.
Totally. Next question I have is, could we have more AMAs?
Yeah, definitely. Look, we've been building for some time, and I think that the reason why there wasn't like super updates because I don't think everybody just wants to hear like every minute tech update, but things are about to change drastically now. And I think that this is the biggest point of why I wanted to do the AMA now. We are in a major company shift right now. And I think that people need to understand that we've built, and I get it. And I know people were patient, some weren't as patient, and that's understandable. I completely get it. But we as Decentraweb, I can officially announce that we are entered in a new direction. We are going to be full pin on multiple marketing fronts. We're going to have a Web 2 marketing team. We're going to have a Web 3 marketing team. We're going to bring on some influencers, KOL, everything, the whole package. We feel like now is the right time. We have really built something incredible here. Just looking at tech-wise compared to all our competitors. We have the most scalable solution, the best technology. There's literally nobody that touches us in terms of tech. Now, obviously, Unstoppable does a very good job at marketing and selling their stuff. That's great. But when I think that we do the same and people can evaluate which tech is better, that's what's going to set us apart.
Well, and you actually just kind of partially answered my last question that I have is, what are the marketing plans as we move forward with the bull market? If you want to dig maybe a little bit more deep into what your thoughts are and maybe what the new direction of the company is.
Yeah, look, we're really going to be focused on a couple of key things. One of them is community growth. We really want to onboard a lot of new community members, get some sales. We did a few thought leadership pieces back in the day. And honestly, I want to do more like guerrilla tactic, mass marketing. A lot of the stuff that people have been discussing and wanting, now's the time. Now you're going to get it. Working with Web2 companies in the past and seeing the structure and operating of all that, I realized Web3 goes a lot faster, but certain players that I know in the Web2 space that I want to onboard to Decentraweb, et cetera, it was imperative that the tech was completely flawless and built, with very little bugs. Imagine we had started mass marketing and integrating big players when we launched in October 10 of 2021. That would have been disastrous. We were not ready for that, and sometimes in life, you only get a first impression, and we don't want to onboard those people. And then there's tons of issues. And then they're like, forget Decentraweb. No. We wanted to make sure we had the best tech, and we feel like we've reached that point. So this company is headed in a completely different direction. We're going to be scaling out an integrations team, marketing team, and I'd also like to bring on a few community people that will help with all the community growth and stuff. But I can tell you now, there's going to be a massive shift in the direction of this company. It's already happening, and I'm really excited for Christmas and the upcoming year, New Year, etc. So get ready. Things are about to change here. And a lot of what the community has been asking for is finally about to happen. I apologize for the delays, the patience, etc. I know a lot of people were getting impatient, but I'm thankful to our core community members who have hanged on and supported us throughout. It's been an incredible journey, and things are about to shift drastically.
So we have a lot to look forward to. Michael, it's been great to have you on the channel. I'm really looking forward to seeing how Decentraweb domains getting integrated all over the industry, how everything goes with marketing, and where we are, this time next year.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Josh. Thanks, everyone, all the DWebbers. I look forward to the next AMA.